I spent years on to change the external things, new goals, new habits, and trying to change new routines and all of that. But the moment I changed my how I see myself, that's when everything else changed. I started to look for it from my inside. So I started to change how I see myself, because the belief system that we have until now, from young age to until to 20s, is the belief systems that the social environment, the school, the people around you has set those belief systems to you, to me. And that was my belief systems, and I started to realize like the patterns into it, and what was working and what was not working, and what can I improve, and what kind of knowledge I need in order to function as the best self of me. And when I started realizing this, I started to read a lot of books. I started to identify my emotions, and that's when it made sense to me that the emotions that I had, like the patterns or something that is keep repeating itself, or if I'm thinking like something has happened to me and how I'm interpreting it, this is all like set to us by other people, and also the ideas that were available to us. So that is why I started paying attention to what I read, what I watch, and who I listen to, and who I get my advice from. And do I want to be like that person? Do I want to live like that person? Because the way like people giving attention to which advices that you are going to listen to and which ones that you are going to learn. First of all, I started changing how I see myself, and I started changing my self-talk into more positive and kinder words to myself. And with even my YouTube, I started setting the goals for my YouTube, and I started to see myself as a YouTuber who already made it. So I'm still in the process, but then habits can, like, if you want to change your life, you have to change your habits first. And I listened to this advice so many times, and then when it really made sense to me is that when your identity becomes that thing that you want to be, when you change your identity for it, that way that is more sustainable. That way you can do it literally every single day, that you can reinforce those identities to yourself. Take that identity, like, I want to become someone successful, I want to become a big YouTuber, or I want to do 100 videos on my YouTube. So for that to happen, like, instead of thinking like I'm trying to become someone who is already successful, thinking of like thoughts of I'm a creator who publishes consistently. And that kind of thought really helped me, and this is the way that I want to be going, because this is the action of me focusing on the process to regulate the emotions. Because when I have like the negative emotions, or when the emotion is very strong, I tend to memorize it very clear memory in my head. So that is why like regulating emotions and also suppressing certain emotions is very important for me. And I also researched into this. I read book, noticing what you are feeling, understanding what's driving it, seeing how to respond rather than reacting automatically. So this was very important. Name the emotions. I feel bad, or I feel bored, I feel lazy, or I feel sad. And try to identify it more specifically, like anxious, disappointed, or notice what caused this emotion. And this has really helped me a lot, because notice your emotions and then name, and also try to notice like what caused this emotion. Take care of your body, sleep, food, and exercise, hydration. And because most of the time when I was just really like having a bad day, or when I just feeling not good, then I would just forgot to drink water, or I just forgot to eat, or I didn't had any movements on that day. So it's like physical thing. If it's physical thing, like notice what was happening to you on that day, and take care of your body and create a pause, stay connected, and talking with someone you can trust about how you're feeling and how you can solve if you have a like problem because of this emotion. Like talk about how you can solve this with someone you trust, and don't be afraid to like ask for help. And like before acting on strong emotion, this one's very, very good. Like this one helped me a lot. Like before acting on a strong emotion, give yourself a few minutes to let yourself be grounded and think about what could happen. Like, so that way after a few minutes, when the intensity decreases, you can also think clearly again. And changing the way I see myself was the hardest part of trying to change your habits. If it has been with you for years or so long, then it's more harder to let go of that old version of you, like your old version of what habits were you doing before that. And if you can notice this, like if you can notice that you can change how you see yourself, and trying to give yourself the grace of changing yourself into a more better person and more self-improved, more emotionally intelligent, and just overall more responsible and reliable person, or confident or positive person, then like give yourself time to change the way how you see yourself. And I think this was very helpful to me, like because I used to make myself into a box, and I used to think of myself like in this bracket, and I used to think that I cannot change, or even like with wearing makeup or wearing certain kind of clothes, I used to think that I'm not a person who wears makeup. But then when I learned how to do makeup, and because also like literally anyone can do like makeup, anyone can do skincare, anyone can do this. And when I tried to like change this from my old version, like it was very hard to like change of how I see myself. And like I really, really like makeup, and I also think like our old versions is really like stuck with us for a long time, and it's very comfortable. But like if it's holding you back from success, or if it's holding you back to live a better life, or if it's holding you back from being happy, then you can change how you see yourself to changing your habits. And for me, like when I was trying to study and keeping the promises to yourself, so when you're trying to keep the promises to yourself, it's starting to become very satisfying, because it's like a reward. And you promised yourself to work out for 2 hours today, or you promised yourself to work on one video for 1 hour, and you did that thing, and you are just like feeling accomplished. And give yourself the grace, give yourself the like credit of how you did what you said you were gonna do. And that really, really helped me a lot, because before this I used to think like those things were just like, oh, it's not much. Like if I accomplished something big, I would just brush off, and I would be like very humble. But inside of me, I can like internally give myself credit to it. I can give myself the acknowledgement that I deserve for it. Like even when I graduated my university, that was a huge milestone for me, and I would been wanting to graduate for 2 to 3 years, and then when it finally happened, like you just hit this milestone. You just reached this milestone, and when you reach this milestone, it's also important to like give yourself the acknowledgement for it because you worked hard for it. And yeah, that's the same for the other things in life, because when you just did small thing on that day, it's also important to give yourself the credit and acknowledgement for it. Like celebrate your small wins. That way you can create in your brain patterns of feeling the accomplishment when you achieved something, when you did even small thing. And yes, even if it's very small, like it's important. And I really think like small or big, our achievements is the proof that we worked hard, that I worked hard. So even if I cleaned my room on that day, even if I read 10 pages on that day, I am still giving myself the acknowledgement, credit for it. Oh, I'm a reliable person. I did what I said I was gonna do. And that way I'm reinforcing the identity of myself, of someone who's reliable, someone who does what they said they're gonna do. Yes. How I regulate my emotions. Also, regulating emotions, in terms of regulating emotions, it's also important to like write down what you're feeling, or even just talk to your own phone and just talking like you're talking to your friend, or explaining your feelings into someone. And that way, that's like projection of your emotions is also important, because you're feeling hurt and you're able to communicate those emotions. And then after that, like trying to watch, maybe like watch try to see yourself as another person's perspective, like how what you're thinking of this person. And this way you can recognize your emotions and whether or not these emotions are helping you or pulling you back. If this emotion is helping you to go further, if this emotion is like supporting your identities, like you want to become someone successful, or you want to just live your happy life and just like creating things that you want to create on that day, then it's also important to like knowing your emotions. And if there is problem, like if there is something that you don't know the answer to, like from your emotions, how to managing your emotions, also like just see a professional, healthcare professional, like mental health professional, and see someone and ask for help. And because this way you can get the help from someone who is experienced and someone who is professional. Giving yourself the assurance that you're looking for from someone else, or external things, just like giving yourself the and also like when you just like realize that other people is maybe treated you badly, or other people, they're just projecting. And when you just know who you are, when you know your worth, and when you know that you just wish the good for all of these people, then it's going to be very like reassuring to know that other people are just projecting. And maybe they had like bad day, maybe someone had a bad day, and you don't know what people are going through. So it's very important to like knowing how much like you're trying to go. And if someone is just projecting their insecurities to you, just like thinking of like, oh, this person is projecting, and I can decide whether or not it will affect me or not. And like, because that is the reflection of their own self-projection, of their own self-identity. That person is thinking of you that way. That is why that person is acting towards like that to you. So when I changed my thinking into this, so much things made more sense to me. And also, like, I try to be more self-aware, and I try to understand what like emotional intelligence means. And having the self-confidence, like in terms of like regulating my emotions and changing the way I see myself. So when I was over 20, when I just turned 20 years old, I used to still thinking in the way of I used to think when I was 14 to 16 years old. So that was my teenage mind. And the reason that I used to think like that was, I think, because when we are younger, our brain has not much of experience of in social circumstance, or like just, and I remember things so vividly, like the people's attitude to me, or the experiences that I had, or what people thought of me. And those things were manifested so big time when I was just turned 20 years old. And I still was in that mindset, thinking that like insecure, and didn't like my appearance, or just like thinking that I don't have any chance like to be successful. And that was what the other people around me said to me, or said to about themselves. So that was the projection of that people. And when you're like growing up in a belief systems of other people's belief system, and when you're thinking of yourself in that way, I think if you're still carrying that in the 20s, it's just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me, because now that I'm over 20 years old, and like learning to find my confidence, and trying to understand my own emotions, and trying to understand the world, and like trying to make sense of my life. So in that sense, if those thoughts are not helping me, like, because I don't have to carry it all to myself, like even through my 20s, and the experiences that I have, and when I moved abroad, and also when I went into new environment, you know that everybody else is just thinking of themselves, and they're thinking like, oh, what should I do today? Oh, my career, or like my life, or they all have their own separate lives, and they do not care what other people are doing, or they do not care if someone else is wanting to become a model. They're not gonna say to them that they're not gonna make it, or they're not pretty enough. So this is the biggest difference that I realized when I turned like over 20 and over 25 years old. So like people when I was teenager, like people said to me that, oh, you're not pretty enough to become a model, like you have to be like extra pretty, or like, I don't know, whatever that you want to say, like to become a model. And like when you're young, you listen to those people's word, and you project it to yourself. And that is why like it's very important to find your own voice, and thinking what you really think of that goal, whether or not you really want to do that, or whether or not if it's worth it. And if it's worth it, you can work towards it, and nobody can tell you like, oh, you can't be a model, or oh, you can't be a TV reporter, or you can't be a YouTuber. And nobody can tell you that. You can make decision, and you can change it right now. And using the quantum leaping, or like even like the movie in the Doctor Strange, and even if it's like fictional movie, I think the ideas on that movie is very worth considering, worth thinking about. Like, you can heal yourself through your mind, and you can, if you reinforce the idea to yourself every single day, then you can literally become that thing, and you can literally change your habits, you can literally change your identity. And that was like thinking that in that movie, because I wanted to, I really like that movie, and I'm just gonna explain it. And like when I watched that movie, and then you just become what you think. So there's been a lot of quotes on that, and there's a lot of people who also say this. And then when I finally like thinking in the self-confidence, and self-confidence, you can build it one day at a time, and you can build it by keeping the promises you made to yourself. And even if like when you're working on a goal for some time and it becomes starting to become boring, or you can't stand it anymore, just go through the motion, and just go through the motion for a bit, and then keep on going. And the one thing about this is that it just requires a little bit of incentive to keep on going, and that it was very important to get that incentive from how much you have improved, and not from the external things. If you're getting it from external things like food, or like scrolling, doom scrolling, or TV shows, or like time consuming things, it's going to be very limited, because that things has limits, and it can also take your time when you're trying to use it as a reward. So you can use the reward of your own progress, of how much you have improved from the beginning to like during and the final finish line, and how much you have improved. You can literally measure your progress, and thinking that how much you've improved, and I'm just happy with my results, and I'm just happy that I couldn't do this, and now that I learned all of this, I'm very happy. And thinking like that really helped me. And yeah, and I think also you can do it too. And we have this like, and when you have this mindset of, if you're struggling to start something, like if you're struggling to work productive on one goal, like doing 10-minute meditation of like guided visualization before you actually start the task. That way you can think of what you think about that task, and if it's really important thing, you can do it even if it's boring, even if it feels boring, or even if your attention is divided into something else. You can still come back to it, and you can still do it even if you have been distracted for a while. Identity-based habits is very important. Like the gap that you want to fill, and the gap that you want to fill to the person that you want to become, and the person that you are right now, here the gap feels like it's impossible, but you can still do it, you can still achieve it. And if you just go through the motion of feeling bored, or feeling unmotivated, or feeling like the reward is not instant, and even if it's like long-term goal and you can't see the progress, or you can't see the achievement, and you can see the gratification that's coming with it, it's important to know that it's worth it. And when you finish this, and when you just going through the motion, and when you just been consistent on that one goal, you can get it no matter what. You can finish that. And this kind of thinking really helped me a lot. And just like having a hope of something is going to work out while you're working towards it. Intention is the active way of changing your narrative of life. So you're trying, if your intention is, I'm trying to become a consistent person, or I'm becoming someone who does not do people pleasing. So these are like good suggestions to make yourself more intentional and thinking. Like, you can set the intention for the day. Like, if I set the intention for myself to eat healthy as much as I can today, then I'm only going to be focused on like, how do I get healthy food? How do I prepare? How do I go to the store to buy the vegetables and also the protein? So it's very important to also like thinking like that. And so this is also so important because our programming that is set by to ourselves, by our environment, the school, the people that were around us when we were growing up, and teachers and our parents, and their self-beliefs has been installed to us since younger age. So it's very important to like knowing what your programming is, because programming creates beliefs, beliefs create attitudes, and attitudes create feelings, and feelings determine our actions, and actions create results. So that is why it's very important of noticing what your programming is like and what your beliefs are like. That way, if that kind of belief is not good for you, like if it's not good for you to like to be more self-confident or to learn something, to building skills, it's very important to reprogram that self-belief into yourself so that you can become your better version, so that you can become your best self. So why focusing on yourself is so important? So for me, I'm a naturally very empathetic person, and I would empathize with my emotions, and also when someone tells their problems to me, I empathize so deeply, and that is very energy consuming. And when you're always thinking about others, you do not have any time for yourself. You don't have time for your own goals, own plan, your own feelings, and you have to understand yourself first. So when I first realized that this is very true, like when I first becoming more noticing that I care too much about other people, and just like even when I'm in a relationship, and when other people around me, they would come to me for help, and I helped them, and I would be like very genuinely emotionally invested to them. But these people do not really like emotionally invest as equally emotionally invested in you as well. So that is why I think it's very like imbalanced, and there's no balance to this. And knowing like how you behave in certain social circumstances, like if someone is telling you too much details about their lives, or if you have to like worry too much for them, like because you genuinely care, you genuinely think that you really want to help this person, and then that person may not want to be helped. Maybe they just wanted to someone to listen to them, or maybe they just wanted to vent. And for me, like I also thought like I felt better when I just vented my thoughts, when I just tell people like how I think, or just tell myself of what I went through on that day, and I just turn on my camera and I just talk to myself. And that really helps me to like notice my own patterns and notice my own emotional regulation and how I regulate my emotions. And I also journal a lot, and that's going to be a whole different video like about journaling and how to journal. So normally I would just write down how I feel, and I would try to like validate those emotions, and I would try to like look for evidence for like what is supporting that emotion and what is not supporting that. Am I really like overthinking? Am I just overthinking, or is it really true? Like, is it really like valid thought, or like something that is worth considering, worth investing my time into? So that becomes really clear when I just write it down. And I also use like vision board and to to write down my goals and how I can achieve them. And I really like journaling, and it really helps me to understand myself, understand my emotions, and understand my goals and how I can reach to my goals. And I think that's very good way to let your inside out, like your emotions wise. And I really think like you can control how you think, like you can control who you are, and if this thought is not helping you, you can literally change it, like modify it into the thought that will actually help you, like the thought that can let you become more relaxed, and that can let you do the things that you're supposed to be doing. And as a young person also, like we have so much to learn, and we don't have a lot of experience in life, like for real, like we just straight out of like high school, straight out of university, and just getting into workforce. And like in the 20s we don't have the enough experience to actually know ourselves or like understand our emotions. That's why it's very important to like just look at your thoughts, and uh, like you are trying to figure out why this thought has appeared. And it's very interesting, like our brain, how our brain works, and we can literally support our brain to think exactly what we like, what we want. And because like to live a purposeful life, to live a successful life, or to just like live happily, that live as your full meaning, we need to like being aware of ourselves, like knowing your emotions, knowing how you are, and what kind of identity that you want to be standing on. So for me, to become more responsible, to become more become to going closer to my goals, like to reach closer to my goals, I really needed to like knowing myself and understand my emotions. And some emotions, like the really strong emotions, like for example if you were sad or if you were hurt, you can literally change that into energy to work towards something, like you create something out of that sadness or out of that heartbreak or out of that failure. And when I was uni, I wasted time once and I failed this subject. And when I failed that exam, like because it was a lot of money to actually like finish that course, to that just basically means I'm gonna repeat that course again because I need a degree and I need to like I had to like repeat that course. So that mistake was not even supposed to be happening in the first place, but at the time I was very young and I didn't know how to like control my own productiveness. I didn't know how to pace my productivity, and I didn't know like if this time is the only time that I'm having this opportunity to test my knowledge, to give that exam, to take that exam. That was only given once, and that opportunity was given to me only once. And at the time I was just like wasted my time on unnecessary, unmeaningful things. That is why I think it's very important for us to like knowing what is important to you. Like this exam was very important to me, and I didn't know how to control my thoughts. I didn't know, like I had so much free time, but I didn't use it wisely at the time, at that one time. So from this example, this is very important. Like if you give your identity, that if you think your identity is I'm a responsible person and I'm going to take this exam, I'm going to sit through the exam, and I'm going to give everything that I got, and also the preparation for the exam before the exam. So this is why it's very important for our thoughts. Like my identity, if I knew how to enforce the identity to myself every single day, if I knew, like have the experience of how I can direct my thoughts, how I can direct my habits, I would have like have so many things done at the time. So that's why I'm telling you, like, it's very important to watch what you're seeing, watch what you're watching and hearing, what people are going to say to you.